So I went with Luke Hawks, which is basically my real last name.
Sure. So take us on a little bit of a trip. You said XPW, so that's obviously where you really, you almost were trained there, right? Am I right with that? Or I know Vic Grimes trained you.
I was trained by Vic Grimes.
Right.
I was trained by Vic Grimes. I actually had training prior to Vic Grimes, but it was terrible training. It was like, the jabronis over here in Louisiana, they don't know a goddamn thing.
Well, Luke,
bag.
we always say that you get trained by different people, but then you get smartened up in the business. So would you say you were smartened up in the business by Vic Grimes?
Well, I would say both. I was trained and smartened up
Sure.
because I didn't learn a lot of things around here. They were trying to teach me to be a referee, basically, because I had talent and none of them didn't. I know that sounds so egotistical, but it was a bunch of 45-year-old guys who never wrestled out of Houma, Louisiana, that were probably 300-400 pounds, or you never heard of them, never will hear them, and they talk about these war stories like they were in WWE on the road for 20 years, and they were
Right.
heavyweight champions, and you're like, who the fuck is this guy? I never heard of him.
Sure. And he wants you to carry his bag.
Yeah. And he doesn't know a goddamn thing. You put him in the top wrist lock and they lost. They're like, I don't know how to get out of this.
So after fucking around a little bit down there, you then hooked up with Vic. How'd you hook up with Vic?
But man, I first started, I was going to drive to Philly, and that's when like ECW was on the point of shutting down and everything. And like, I don't remember if Ring of Honor had started yet or if it was just about to start. But Feinstein, I was friends with Feinstein and a bunch of ECW guys. I knew a ton of ECW guys. So Feinstein would always tell me, I was cool with Jerry and Super Crazy. He said, hey, well, Super Crazy, I think, had got deported at the time, and they needed somebody to take over his apartment. So I talked to Feinstein. He was like, yeah, because he used to handle, like, their apartment shit.
Sure.
So Feinstein said, take over his apartment, and if you don't like it, they got a couple other apartments around here, blah, 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 I'll hook you up with a job. So I drove up there as soon as I graduated high school, had a couple grand cash saved up, and Feinstein started ducking my calls when I got out there.
No
Whoa.
shit. Where were you staying then? Were you staying in the apartment at that time?
Yeah, I got a hotel. I got a hotel for a few days, and he was ignoring me. So finally, Doug Gentry, who was Feinstein's best friend and partner in RF Video.
He passed. Didn't Doug pass?
Excuse me, I got a little cold, so my voice is kind of screwed up, but I'm coughing. But Doug called me, and he's like, man, I know Rob Stuckey. It's screwed up. He's at this number right now. Call him, and he'll answer the phone because he doesn't have call ID on this number. So he'll have to answer the phone. So I called him. He answers his phone, and he goes, yeah, you're out here? And I'm like, yeah, I'm out here, motherfucker. I've been out here for 2 days, So, and, I didn't know anybody else in the Philly area, so he's like the only guy I really knew in the Philly area. So he goes, oh, well, that job I was going to get you at the RF Video store, because at this point, RF Video was huge. They had stores in all the malls out there. Like, every mall had an RF Video store in it. And, like, the video market was real big on wrestling. He goes, well, the guy that was going to quit, he's not quitting now, so I don't have a job for you. And I was like, all right, well, I'll find a job. I got a couple grand stacked up. I'll find a job. And I said, well, I just want to get in this apartment. I can't afford to stay in a hotel every night. He goes, oh, well, man, they got tons of apartments out here. Just go find one. And I'm going, are you fucking kidding me? I'm going to kill this mother, So I just packed up my shit. I didn't even say nothing, man. I just drove all the way from Philly straight to Oakland, and I had Vic's address because I used to keep in touch with Vic. So I knocked right on Vic's door, man, and Vic opened the door, and he said, the exact words, he goes, you're a fucking moron. He knew I just drove all the way out there. And, I was like, dude, I want to wrestle. And, what's you going to tell a kid, who just drives across the country on a prayer?
What's that, like 45, 50 hours? I mean, what did that take you?
Yeah, man, I don't remember. A couple of days for sure.
Wow, that's incredible.
I drove it pretty much straight. I mean, I just stopped to sleep, and there wasn't much sleeping, maybe like 6 hours a night. I know I didn't stay long. I just enough to get a little rest and then get going.
I mean, that's dedication. You hear all now, knowing that that's your story of how you how you went out and got the business. The business didn't come to you. You went out and got the business. You went out and found it. How is it when you see these guys and you're in these locker rooms now, and these guys that are just like willing to hang out where they're at now and just wrestle for their weekend fed? Does it frustrate you to no end to see these guys?
Dude, it's aggravating because they all think the shit don't stink. And I tell my students every day, I got a school down in New Orleans, and I hand feed my kids. They're very lucky. They're very fortunate. They don't have any, they got all the stuff I wish I would have had coming up, but I don't know if all of them have the same drive. I got good kids, good students, but at the same time, I wonder what would happen if I wasn't around to hand feed them. Because I run good shows, I put on good shows for them, I get them good bookings. They didn't have to do all that traveling that I did. They didn't have to go out there. But now that they're trained, I force them to do it.
Sure.
I make them make the drive to Atlanta and Wildside where we used to go. Remember Vito?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We packed up and moved there.
Go ahead.
We fucking packed up and moved there to some shitty, Cornelia-ass Georgia. So, we get it, man.
Exactly. So the grind. It takes a lot, man. Like you said, the business don't come to you. You got to go to it, and there's no guarantee you're gonna make it. You got to just keep going and keep going. I'll never quit. So I'm fortunate enough that I do really well now, and I don't have to work a job no more to support my wrestling habit. My wrestling habit supports me. So I'm fortunate in that, but a lot of guys aren't, and it's a tough business. But Tommy Dreamer always told me, don't give up. Just keep doing it, and get better. So that's what I do.
At what point did it? I know Ben kind of asked this question, and I kind of want to re-ask it again. What year and what were you exactly doing when you turned the corner and became kind of who you are today? What was the start of Luke Hawx?
I guess when I went to Wildside, I dropped the Altar Boy thing I was there for a while as Altar Boy Luke, and then I dropped it and just started using Luke, and I didn't really know a good name. So then me and Feinstein patched things up. He apologized, and, he hooked me up with some bookings up in the Northeast. And then he started running some shows for a little bit after Ring of Honor days. And I always kept in touch with Doug. And Doug's like, man, your last name's really cool. You should use Hawx. You should use Hawx. And I was like, nah, because they're like, yeah, Luke's just too boring. I was like, yeah, it is boring. But I didn't know what kind of name to come up with.
Sure.
So, Doug gave me, I say he gave it to me, and, Doug forced me to use it on one of the shows, and it stuck. Everybody's like, dude, that's kick ass. And I'm like, well, it's pretty much my last name, so.
So that works out.
Yeah. yeah, so it worked, yeah, exactly. So it works out, so that's what happened. And I can't really tell you, there was no day where I just woke up and was like, man, I'm going to do something different. It was always trying to better myself. And, I don't BS. I watch my videos over and over, and back then, like, I'll watch it today, and I'll go, man, I don't know how anybody ever gave me a chance because I sucked. But here's the thing. This is the reason why I got a chance. There's a million people out there that suck. Right. I always wanted to get better, and I always, I was a student of the game, so I was always working on it. I was always training. I was always, trying to be different and trying to get my name out there any way I could instead of just wanting to be a wrestler and thinking I'm going to make it. I went for it. So that's what made me, I guess, successful.
Sure. No, spot on for sure. And then I know this kind of off the beaten path of wrestling, but you also do movies, right? You also do stunt doubles. What got you involved in that?
I do a ton of movies. It's great, man. I make a killing. I make a killing. So it's one of the things where sometimes you don't want to brag about it, but you want to brag about it.
No, hey, this is the show that you brag. So brag. This is a bragging show.
I work my ass off. I just finished one film. I just finished doing 6.5 weeks on the new Jason Statham film where I play a hitman. It's an acting role.
Whoa.
So
you're not just a stunt man. You actually act too.
Well, yeah. A lot of roles will get they'll use stunt guys in because we'll have to do some acting and then maybe get in a fight or do stuff like that. So I do and stunts goes from anywhere to doubling to playing roles or playing small roles, being in bar fights where you just kind of see a guy fighting in the background. It's
wow.
But you're working constantly.
Sure. So you have a SAG card and everything, all that stuff?
What'd you say?
Do you have a SAG card and all that stuff? Being an actor?
Yeah, I'm SAG. Yeah, I'm SAG. I've been SAG since 2009.
Wow,
that's incredible.
So just real fast, rattle off your top X amount of movies.
Yeah, what could we possibly see you in?
Battleship, Expendables, Green Lantern, The Chaperone, Common Law, G.I. Joe 2, Homefront. I'm about to start a new one called Katie. I just got a little role on that. so many concussions. I've been in over 40 films, though, so I don't even remember them all.
Wow.
It's a ton. I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of big films, and even though you might not see my face in a lot of them, I still worked on them, still did some kind of stunt on it. So you never know what I was doing on it. But, and some of them, like Green Lantern, like my name's not even in the credits in like movies like Green Lantern because there were so many stunt guys. Like the party scene with the helicopter, I mean, we had like 100 stunt guys on that day. So
do you
so the credits, and it cost them money to every time they put a credit on a film, it cost them more money.
Oh.
So sometimes you're not even credited. So, but still on my resume, I work with top guys. I work with some top coordinators. And I turned down a lot of roles too because it's crazy because of my wrestling schedule. So I get so many calls, especially when I'm wrestling, that it's one or the other. I always pick wrestling first.
Do you ever go back and watch the movies and like try to pick yourself out and like slow mo it?
Of course he does.
Yeah.
Of course he does.
I don't even usually watch the movies. I just fast forward to my part and just turn them off.
Awesome.
Yes, as we all would. Trust me on that. Shit. No, that's pretty cool, man. And from I've known you a number of years. I wouldn't say that we're friends, meaning we hang out or we did this or that. But I was telling.
We're friends. I mean, we've been friends for a long time. Like you say, like. Friends is a loose word, but we're friends. I wouldn't say you're an acquaintance or anything like that. You're a friend. You could always call me. So I mean,
a friendly face when you see him.
Right, like if we walked into the same locker room, we'd put our bags by each other.
Exactly.
And I was telling a story before where I ran into you in California, probably around that same time that you said you drove out there. It was just kind of cool. Like we were both kind of the same guy at the same time, just trying to get over being smaller guys. And it's just really cool to see what you've rolled out for yourself. So pat on the back to you, man. You've come a long way. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, man. So have you, man. You've been you was at a good school. You had a little bit of better opportunity than I did at that time because you had that school. I remember actually we went to the school one day to work out, and I don't remember where the ring was at. It was set up someplace, and Vic took me over there because we didn't have a ring. And Vic got chewed out by Donovan after and said never to go there again. He didn't mind me going there, but it was because I went with Vic and him and Vic had heat at the time.
Yeah, those guys were very weird. They hated everybody that wasn't like in really good shape, or wasn't paying them dues. Because if that day you would have walked in with a check, they would have loved you. Would have been, oh my God, he's the greatest. He's one of the greatest guys we've ever seen in our entire lives. Come on in, shit. You're on the next show. But that's the business. So I mean, and they would explain that too. But
right.
It's just what it was. So literally, man, to see you from 2002, to see you flipping off of balconies, to get over an XPW, to see you today, getting Raw tryouts and being in some pretty big movies. It's a pretty cool thing, man. So pat yourself on the back. You especially come from Louisiana, man. You don't get breaks coming from Louisiana.
Nah, man, ain't nothing down here, man. There's nothing, and we don't get any credit for anything we do down here. The South don't get any credit whatsoever, internet-wise, magazine-wise. You never, and if it does, it's some really crappy thing that somebody's friends with the writers, so they send it in or some BS like that.
Sure, and then so you've obviously I've seen you on WWE TV as security guy Jones and random things here. How many times have you been there, and what's it like when you go there? Do they know you? Do they not know you? Where's your standing there?
I work with them a lot. I've had actually a couple offers. It just hasn't been good enough to take. I have a really good working relationship with them. I go back. I go back to WWE every few months at least, and they use a lot of my guys, and they call me for guys a lot. So I get a really good working relationship with them, always have, and I hope I always will. And eventually someday I'll wind up there when time's right.
What's it like to turn down a WWE tryout or like a WWE anything? Like when you go home, do you kind of go, haha, fuck you? Like do you kind of pat yourself a little more on the back?
Never, man, never, because it's the place you want to be. It's sometimes you're thankful for it, but it's like. And that's what my dream was. I mean, my dream is there. I want to go to WWE, and I want to be a WWE superstar. But just at this point in my life, the deal has to be sweet enough for me to go. I got 2 kids. I have a really good career here with the movies and wrestling. I have a school, a facility where I run shows. So my life would be a drastic change that I would have to shut everything down for to go move. I can't just pick up and move to Florida like a regular indie worker could.
Sure.
So. Like, it would have to really be a sweet deal for me to pick up. Like, I can't go to Florida for 2 years.
Sure.
I can't leave my kids for 2 years. So, if I'm working and on the road, that's one thing. But, You know, you can't go to Florida for, you know, their paychecks or some people get decent paychecks, some people get better than others, and then some people get kind of low-end paychecks. And I couldn't go to Florida for a loan. And we never got really to the money deal. It was always like, hey, this is what I need. Sure. And if you can give me what I need, then I would love to do it. I do want to be a part of the company, but if it's not, you know, if you can't, then I can't do it because, you know, either one, I have to pack up